Shadow had never barked at a police officer before. Not once in 5 years of service. But when Sergeant Raymond Vance walked through the checkpoint with his leather duffel bag, the German Shepherd went insane. Barking, snarling, straining against his leash like he'd found a bomb. Marcus Cole yanked the leash back, confused and embarrassed. Vance was a decorated 20-year veteran, visiting from the city precinct. But Shadow wouldn't stop. And when Marcus looked into Vance's eyes, he saw something that made his blood freeze. Fear. A police sergeant with nothing to hide shouldn't look that afraid. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Subscribe and stay until the end. What Shadow discovered in that bag will change everything you believe about trust. The morning inspection at Fort Marshall K-9 training facility began like every other morning for the past 3 years. Marcus Cole stood at checkpoint 7 with Shadow at his side, watching the stream of visitors sign in at the front desk. His German Shepherd sat perfectly still, ears relaxed, breathing steady. Shadow was the calmest dog on the facility. 5 years of military service had taught him discipline that most humans couldn't match. Marcus trusted that dog more than he trusted himself. "Morning, Cole." Deputy Chief William Carter approached with a clipboard, his silver hair catching the fluorescent lights. At 60 years old, Carter was the only senior officer who'd given Marcus a chance after the Navy threw him away. "Morning, sir. We've got VIPs today. Delegation from the City Police Department. They're evaluating our training methods for their own canine unit." Marcus nodded. "Shadow and I will be on our best behavior." Carter smiled, but there was something tight in his expression. "One of them is Sergeant Raymond Vance, 20-year veteran, decorated, well-connected." He paused. "Very well-connected." Marcus caught the subtext. "Be careful. Don't make waves." "Understood, sir." Carter walked away, and Marcus looked down at Shadow. The dog met his eyes with that steady, intelligent gaze that always seemed to understand more than any animal should. "Just another inspection day, buddy. Nothing we can't handle." Shadow's tail wagged once. Agreement. The delegation arrived at 900 hours. 6 police officers in dress uniforms, badges gleaming, shoes polished to mirrors. They moved through the facility like they owned it, pointing at equipment, asking condescending questions, making notes on tablets. Marcus watched from his position at the checkpoint, cataloging faces and body language the way his SEAL training had taught him. Most of the officers seemed bored, going through motions they'd done 100 times before, but one of them was different. Sergeant Raymond Vance walked at the back of the group, a leather duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He was 48 years old, with silver-streaked hair combed back from a face that cameras probably loved. His uniform was immaculate. His posture was confident. His smile was easy and practiced. But his eyes kept moving. Left, right, behind, ahead. The eyes of a man who expected ambush. Marcus frowned. Something about Vance felt wrong. He couldn't explain it, couldn't articulate it. But after 6 years as a SEAL, he'd learned to trust feelings that couldn't be explained. Shadow felt it too. The German Shepherd's ears rotated forward. His body shifted from relaxed to alert. A low sound escaped his throat. Not quite a growl, but close. Marcus placed a hand on Shadow's back. "Easy, boy. What is it?" Shadow didn't respond. His eyes were locked on Vance, tracking the sergeant's every movement with an intensity Marcus had only seen in combat situations. The delegation reached the checkpoint. The first 5 officers passed through without incident, their bags scanned, their credentials verified. Routine. Boring. Exactly what it should be. Then Vance stepped forward. Shadow exploded. The bark that erupted from the German Shepherd was unlike anything Marcus had heard in 5 years. Sharp, violent, desperate. Shadow lunged against his leash, teeth bared, every muscle straining toward the sergeant's duffel bag. "Shadow, heel!" Marcus yanked the leash, but Shadow wouldn't stop. The dog barked again and again, each sound more frantic than the last, as if he was trying to warn everyone in the building that danger had walked through the door. The other officers scattered backward. Someone cursed. Someone else reached for a weapon. Vance stood frozen, his face pale, his easy smile gone. "What the hell is wrong with your dog?" one of the officers demanded. Marcus pulled Shadow back, wrapping an arm around the dog's chest. "I don't know. He's never done this before." "Well, control him." "I'm trying." Shadow's barking echoed off the walls, drawing attention from every corner of the facility. Handlers rushed over. Security personnel appeared. Deputy Chief Carter pushed through the crowd, his face tight with concern. "Cole, what's happening?" "I don't know, sir. Shadow he reacted to something." Carter looked at Shadow, still straining toward Vance, then at the sergeant himself. "Sergeant Vance, I apologize for this. Our dogs are highly trained, but occasionally—" "It's fine." Vance's voice was steady, but his knuckles had gone white around the strap of his duffel bag. "Dogs react to things humans can't see. It's probably just my cologne or something." "Of course," Carter nodded, eager to smooth things over. "Cole, get Shadow out of here. We'll continue the inspection without canine involvement." "Sir, with respect, Shadow doesn't react without reason. Maybe we should check the sergeant's bag." Silence fell over the checkpoint. Vance's eyes locked onto Marcus. Something flickered in them. Not anger. Something colder. Calculation. "Are you suggesting I'm hiding something?" Vance asked quietly. "I'm suggesting my dog thinks you are." The tension in the room ratcheted up another notch. Officers exchanged glances. Someone coughed nervously. Carter's face had gone from concerned to alarmed. "Cole," Carter said carefully, "Sergeant Vance is a decorated officer with 20 years of service. We're not going to search his bag based on a dog's reaction." "Sir, that's an order." Marcus felt the words like a punch to the gut. He looked down at Shadow, still growling, still focused on the bag with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Trust the dog. That was the first rule of canine handling. Trust the dog, because they sense what you can't. But orders were orders, and Marcus had already destroyed one career by refusing to follow them. "Yes, sir." He pulled Shadow away from the checkpoint, the dog resisting every step. As they retreated, Marcus glanced back over his shoulder. Vance was watching him, and in that brief moment of eye contact, Marcus saw something that made his blood freeze. Satisfaction. The sergeant was pleased. Whatever was in that bag, he was relieved it hadn't been found. Marcus filed that expression away in his memory, because he was going to find out what Sergeant Raymond Vance was hiding, one way or another. 3 hours later, the delegation departed. Marcus watched their vehicles roll through the front gate, Shadow still tense at his side. "You see something, didn't you?" Marcus murmured. "Something in that bag. Something bad." Shadow whined softly, pressing against Marcus's leg. "I believe you, buddy. I always believe you." He waited until the vehicles disappeared, then headed for the security office. If there was evidence of what Vance was carrying, it would be in the footage. The security room was empty, except for a young technician named Rodriguez, who looked up nervously when Marcus entered. "Hey, Cole, what's up?" "I need to see this morning's checkpoint footage, the VIP inspection." Rodriguez hesitated. That's restricted." Deputy Chief Carter locked it down right after the incident. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He locked it down? Why? "I don't know, man. He just said no one accesses it without his direct authorization." Rodriguez lowered his voice. "What happened out there? Everyone's talking about how your dog went crazy." Shadow didn't go crazy. He detected something. Marcus leaned closer. "Rodriguez, I need that footage. Something's wrong here. I can feel it."
"Cole, I could lose my job."
"And innocent people could lose their lives if I'm right about this." Rodriguez stared at him for a long moment. Then he glanced at the door, made sure it was closed, and turned back to his computer. "You didn't get this from me. I'm going to the bathroom for exactly 10 minutes. Whatever happens to this workstation while I'm gone is not my responsibility." "Thank you." Rodriguez left. Marcus sat down at the computer and began searching. The footage from Checkpoint 7 loaded quickly. Marcus watched himself standing with Shadow, watched the delegation approach, watched the dog's sudden explosion of barking. But that wasn't what interested him. He rewound further. 30 minutes before the inspection, the parking lot camera. There, a black SUV parked in the visitor section. Vance's car. But before the delegation assembled, Vance had walked to another vehicle, a gray sedan with tinted windows parked in the far corner. Marcus zoomed in, enhanced, watched. Vance approached the sedan. The rear window rolled down. A hand emerged, passing something to the sergeant. A package wrapped in black plastic. Vance took it, put it in his duffel bag. The same bag Shadow had detected. Then the sedan's occupant leaned forward slightly, and Marcus got a glimpse of a face. His blood went cold. Anton Mercer. Marcus knew that face. Everyone in law enforcement knew that face. Anton Mercer was the most dangerous crime lord on the East Coast. Drug trafficking, human trafficking, murder for hire. The FBI had been trying to build a case against him for years, but witnesses kept disappearing and evidence kept vanishing. And here he was, passing packages to a decorated police sergeant in broad daylight. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. Vance wasn't just corrupt. He was working directly with one of the most powerful criminals in the country. And Shadow had known. Somehow, impossibly, the dog had sensed it. "Good boy," Marcus whispered. "You tried to warn them. You tried to warn everyone." He pulled out his phone and took photos of the frozen footage. Then he cleared his browsing history, returned the workstation to its original state, and left the security room just as Rodriguez returned. "Find what you needed?" "Yeah, thanks." Marcus walked out of the building, his heart pounding. He needed to tell someone. Carter. The FBI. Anyone who could stop what was happening. But who could he trust? Carter had locked down the footage almost immediately. Why? Was he protecting Vance? Was he part of this? Marcus reached his car and climbed in, Shadow jumping into the back seat. He sat there for a long moment, staring at nothing, processing what he'd discovered. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop looking. Walk away. This is your only warning." Marcus stared at the message. Then another came through. "We know where you live. We know your dog's name. We know everything about you." A third message. This one contained a photograph. Shadow, in his kennel, taken from outside the facility fence. Marcus's hands began to shake. Not with fear, with rage. They were threatening his dog, his partner, the one creature on this earth who had never betrayed him. He typed back, "I don't respond well to threats." The reply came instantly. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. "You have 24 hours to forget what you saw. After that, the dog dies first. Then you." Marcus deleted the conversation. Then he started his car and drove, not toward home, but toward the one place he knew Shadow would be safe. The Bradley farm was 40 minutes outside the city, owned by a retired FBI agent named Tom Bradley, who owed Marcus a favor from years ago. Bradley's wife ran an animal sanctuary, It was secure, isolated, and off the grid. Marcus called ahead. "Tom, it's Cole. I need help." "What kind of help?" "The kind where I need to hide my dog for a few days while I deal with the situation." Silence. Then, "How bad is the situation?" "Bad enough that they're threatening to kill him." More silence. "Bring him over. We'll keep him safe." "Thank you." "Marcus, be careful. Whatever you've gotten yourself into, don't let it get you killed." "I'll try." Marcus drove with one hand, his other reaching back to touch Shadow's head. The dog pressed against his palm, sensing his distress. "I'm sorry, buddy. I know you don't understand. But I can't let them hurt you." His voice cracked. "You're all I have left." Shadow whined softly. Marcus had lost everything once before. His career, his reputation, his marriage, his faith in the system. Shadow was the only thing that had kept him going through the darkest years. He would burn the world before he let anyone take that away. At the Bradley farm, Tom met him at the gate, his weathered face creased with concern. "You look like hell, Cole." "Feel like it, too." They walked Shadow to the sanctuary, where Sarah Bradley was already preparing a kennel. The German Shepherd looked around warily, unused to being anywhere but at Marcus's side. "It's okay, boy." Marcus knelt down, holding Shadow's face in his hands. "These are good people. They'll take care of you until I come back." Shadow's eyes were confused, hurt. I know you want to stay with me, but where I'm going, I can't protect you." Marcus pressed his forehead against the dog's. "I need you to be safe. I need to know that no matter what happens to me, you'll be okay." Shadow licked his face. Marcus stood, his throat tight. He turned to Tom. "Don't let anyone near him. No one you don't personally know and trust." "You have my word." Tom put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "What are you planning to do?" "I'm planning to find out how deep this goes. And then I'm planning to burn it all down." "That sounds like something that could get you killed." Marcus looked back at Shadow, watching him through the kennel fence. "Some things are worth dying for." He drove back to the city as night fell, his mind working through possibilities. He couldn't go to the local police. Vance had connections there. He couldn't go to the FBI directly because he had no official standing, just a former SEAL with a dishonorable discharge and some grainy photos. He needed more evidence. He needed witnesses. He needed leverage. And he needed to find out what was in that package Mercer gave Vance. His phone rang. Private number. Marcus answered. "Who is this?" "Someone who can help you." A woman's voice, nervous and tired. "Someone who knows what Raymond Vance really is." Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I'm listening. Not on the phone. Meet me at St. Mary's Church on 5th Street. 1 hour. Come alone." "How do I know this isn't a trap?" The woman laughed bitterly. "You don't. But I'm the only person who can give you what you need to destroy him. And God knows, I want him destroyed." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. A trap? Probably. A lifeline? Maybe. Either way, he had no choice but to find out. St. Mary's Church was old, stone walls and stained glass, the kind of place that felt like sanctuary, even when you didn't believe in God anymore. Marcus arrived early and circled the block twice, checking for surveillance. Nothing obvious. No suspicious vehicles. No watchers in windows. He parked 2 streets away and approached on foot, every sense heightened, every shadow a potential threat. The church was empty except for a woman sitting in the front pew, her head bowed as if in prayer. She wore a dark coat and a scarf that partially obscured her face. Marcus walked up the center aisle, his footsteps echoing. The woman didn't turn. "You came," she said. "You said you could help me." The woman finally looked up, She was in her 40s, beautiful in a worn-down way, with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "My name is Elena Vance. Raymond is my husband." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "I know what he is. I've known for years." Her voice trembled. "I've watched him become a monster. I've watched him destroy lives, and I've been too afraid to do anything about it." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But I can't watch anymore. I can't live with what I know." Marcus sat down beside her. "Tell me everything." And Elena did. She told him about the first time she'd seen Vance take a bribe, about the witnesses who disappeared before trials, about the packages he brought home and hid in the basement, about the phone calls at 3 a.m. with men whose names made police commissioners nervous. She told him about Anton Mercer, who'd recruited Vance 15 years ago and turned him into an enforcer. About the drugs that flowed through the city because Vance made sure evidence vanished. About the women trafficked through the port because Vance made sure no one asked questions. And she told him about tomorrow. "There's a girl," Elena said. "Her name is Sophia. She escaped from Mercer's operations. She's supposed to testify before a grand jury next week." Her voice broke. "Raymond found her. Tomorrow night, during his patrol, he's going to kill her." Marcus felt cold rage building in his chest. "Where is she?" "I don't know exactly, but Raymond keeps files, evidence, insurance against Mercer in case their partnership ever sours." Elena reached into her purse and pulled out a key. "This opens a storage unit on the east side. Everything is there. Everything he's done for the past 15 years. Marcus took the key. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I was a coward for too long. Because I let fear keep me silent while people died." Elena met his eyes. "And because your dog tried to warn everyone this morning, and no one listened. But you did. You knew something was wrong." "Shadow knew. I just trusted him." "Then trust him now." Elena stood. "Stop my husband. Save that girl. Burn everything he's built." Her voice hardened with unexpected steel. "Make him pay for what he's done." Marcus stood with her. "What about you? If he finds out, he'll kill me." Elena said it simply, as if she'd accepted it long ago. "But at least I'll die knowing I finally did the right thing." She walked toward the back of the church, then paused. "Your dog, Shadow. He sensed the evil in my husband when no one else could." She looked back at Marcus. "Protect that gift. The world needs more creatures who can see the darkness hiding in plain sight." Then she was gone. Marcus sat alone in the empty church, the key burning in his palm. Tomorrow night, a girl was going to die. Unless he stopped it. He had less than 24 hours to gather evidence, find Sophia, and expose a corruption network that had operated for 15 years. Impossible odds. Certain danger. Probable death. Just another Tuesday for a former Navy SEAL. He pulled out his phone and called the one person he hoped he could still trust. "Deputy Chief Carter." "Sir, it's Cole. We need to talk. And you need to listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change everything." Silence. Then Carter's voice, heavy with exhaustion. "I've been waiting for this call, son. Meet me at my house in 1 hour. And Cole?" "Yes, sir?" "Don't trust anyone between now and then. Not the police, not the facility staff, not anyone." The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone. Carter knew something, had known something, maybe for a long time. The question was, which side was he on? 1 hour to find out. 1 hour before everything changed. Marcus left the church and walked into the night, the weight of Elena's key heavy in his pocket, and the weight of impossible choices heavier still. Somewhere in this city, a girl named Sophia was counting down the hours until death. Somewhere else, Shadow was waiting for him to come back. And somewhere in between, the truth was waiting to be found. Marcus was going to find it, whatever it cost. Carter's house sat at the end of a quiet street where retired cops went to forget the things they'd seen. Marcus parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, his hand resting on the concealed weapon he'd started carrying since the threats began. Every shadow felt like a potential ambush. Every passing car could be Vance's people. The front door opened before he reached the porch. "Get inside, quickly." Carter looked older than he had this morning. The confident deputy chief had been replaced by a man carrying decades of guilt on his shoulders. He checked the street behind Marcus, then closed the door and locked 3 separate deadbolts. "You weren't followed?" "I made sure." Carter nodded and led him to a back room that looked like a command center. Files covered every surface. Photographs pinned to walls. A map of the city with red markers scattered across it like drops of blood. "You've been investigating Vance," Marcus said. "For 8 years." Carter sank into a chair, the weight of those years visible in every movement. 8 years of watching him destroy lives while I gathered evidence that no one would believe. "Why didn't you go to the FBI?" Carter laughed bitterly. "I did. 3 times. Each time, my witnesses disappeared within a week. Evidence vanished from secure facilities. Investigations were shut down before they began." He met Marcus's eyes. "Vance has someone inside the FBI. Someone high enough to make problems go away." Marcus felt the scope of this conspiracy expanding in his mind. Not just a corrupt cop, an entire network. "How deep does this go?" "Deep enough that I don't know who to trust anymore." Carter stood and walked to the wall of photographs. "These are the people who've died because of Raymond Vance. 17 confirmed. Probably more I don't know about." Marcus studied the faces. Men, women, some barely old enough to vote. All of them silenced permanently. "And Anton Mercer?" "Mercer is the money, the power. Vance is his attack dog." Carter pointed to a photograph of the 2 men shaking hands at a charity event. "They met 15 years ago when Vance was still a beat cop. Mercer saw potential, started small, paying Vance to look the other way, then to lose evidence, then to make witnesses disappear. And no one noticed?" "People noticed. People who noticed stopped breathing." Carter's voice cracked. "I've been careful. Anonymous tips, encrypted communications, never letting anyone know how much I actually have. But tonight, when your dog reacted to Vance's bag, I knew we were running out of time." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Carter the photographs from the security footage. "I found this earlier. Mercer passing something to Vance in the parking lot." Carter's face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Security office, before you locked down the footage." "I locked it down to protect it. If Vance knew it existed, he'd destroy it, I know." Marcus pocketed his phone. "What was in that package?" Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to a locked cabinet, entered a combination, and pulled out a file. 2 weeks ago, a girl named Sophia Martinez escaped from one of Mercer's trafficking operations. She made it to an FBI safe house and agreed to testify before a grand jury. Her testimony could bring down Mercer's entire network. Let me guess, Vance found her. Yesterday. He's planning to kill her tomorrow night, during his patrol. Make it look like a random act of violence. Carter's hands trembled as he handed Marcus the file. "That package Mercer gave him this morning? I believe it contained details of her location and the payment for the hit." Marcus opened the file. Sophia Martinez stared back at him from a photograph. 22 years old, dark hair, eyes that had seen too much horror for someone so young. We have to save her. It's not that simple. The FBI safe house is compromised. We don't know who Vance's inside contact is. If we try to move her through official channels, she's dead before she reaches the door. Then we don't use official channels. Carter shook his head. Cole, you're a civilian now. No badge, no authority. If you try to interfere with a federal witness, then I'll add it to my list of crimes. Marcus's voice was hard. I spent 6 years watching good people die because I followed orders. I'm done following orders that get innocent people killed. The two men stared at each other. Decades of experience, measuring against years of combat training. Finally, Carter nodded. What do you need? Everything you have on Vance's movements, his patrol routes, his contacts, and the address of that safe house. Carter hesitated. If I give you that information and something goes wrong, then we both go down. But at least we go down fighting. Carter pulled out another file and handed it over. Vance does a patrol sweep of the east side every night between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Tomorrow, he's scheduled to respond to a disturbance call at 11:30. That's when he'll make his move. How many officers does he have in his pocket? At least 4 that I know of, maybe more. He's built a network inside the department. Young cops who are hungry or desperate or just corrupt enough to look the other way. Marcus memorized the patrol route, the timing, the names of suspected dirty cops. His mind worked through scenarios the way it had worked through mission planning in the SEALs. I need one more thing, he said. What? I need my dog. Carter frowned. You said you sent Shadow somewhere safe. I did. But if we're going up against Vance tomorrow night, I need him with me. Shadow can detect things I can't. He knew Vance was dirty before any of us did. Marcus's voice softened. And honestly, I don't want to face this alone. Carter studied him for a long moment. You really trust that dog, don't you? More than I trust most humans. Then get him. But Cole? Carter's expression hardened. Whatever happens tomorrow night, Vance cannot know we're coming. If he gets even a hint of warning, Sophia dies and we lose everything. Understood. Marcus stood to leave, but Carter grabbed his arm. One more thing. Elena Vance contacted me tonight. Marcus froze. What? She said she spoke to you at the church. Said she gave you a key to a storage unit. She did. Carter's grip tightened. That storage unit is our insurance policy. Everything Vance has done for the past 15 years is documented there. He doesn't know Elena has access to it. If he finds out, he'll kill her, which is why we need to move fast. Carter released his arm. Get the evidence from that storage unit. Get your dog. Meet me back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. We'll finalize the plan to save Sophia. Marcus nodded and headed for the door. But something made him pause. Carter, why did you give me a chance? After my discharge, most people wouldn't touch me. Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, 20 years ago, I was in the military. Saw my commanding officer do something unforgivable. I reported it. They buried the complaint and destroyed my career. His voice cracked. I recognized myself in you, Cole. Someone who chose truth over convenience. Someone who paid the price for doing right. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. He wasn't alone. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. Thank you, sir. Thank me when this is over, if we're still alive. Marcus drove to the storage unit on the east side of the city. The key Elena had given him felt heavy in his pocket. Evidence of 15 years of corruption. Enough to destroy Vance and Mercer both. If it was real. If this wasn't a trap. He parked outside the facility and sat in his car, watching. 10 minutes. 20. No suspicious vehicles. No movement in the shadows. Finally, he approached the unit. Number 247. The key slid into the lock smoothly. The door rolled up with a metallic groan. Inside, boxes filled the space from floor to ceiling, each one labeled with dates: 2009, 2012, 2015, 2020. A timeline of evil, documented with meticulous precision. Marcus opened the nearest box. Bank statements, wire transfers, money flowing from Mercer's accounts to offshore accounts controlled by Vance. Millions of dollars over 15 years. The next box contained photographs. Vance meeting with known criminals. Vance accepting envelopes in parking lots. Vance standing over what looked disturbingly like a body. The third box made Marcus's stomach turn. Documents related to trafficking operations. Names, dates, photographs of women and girls. Some of them crossed out with red markers. Dead. They were all dead. Marcus's hands shook as he photographed everything. His phone filled with evidence. Every box he opened revealed new horrors. Drug shipments, witness elimination orders, corrupt judges and politicians on Mercer's payroll. And then he found the file that changed everything. A folder labeled Insurance. Inside were documents that Vance had gathered against Mercer. Recordings, photographs, evidence of crimes that could put the crime lord away for multiple lifetimes. Vance wasn't just working for Mercer. He was planning to betray him. "Smart bastard," Marcus muttered. "You're planning your exit strategy." A sound from outside made him freeze. Footsteps. Multiple people. Approaching fast. Marcus shoved his phone in his pocket and drew his weapon. He moved to the corner of the unit, using the boxes as cover. The footsteps stopped outside the door. "I know you're in there, Cole." Marcus recognized the voice. Sergeant Raymond Vance. "You've been busy tonight. The church, Carter's house, and now my wife's little storage unit." Vance laughed softly. "Elena always was smarter than I gave her credit for. Too bad she won't live long enough to enjoy her betrayal." Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. "If you've hurt her, not yet, but that depends entirely on you." Vance's voice moved closer to the door. "Here's how this is going to work. You're going to come out with your hands up. You're going to give me your phone with all those pretty pictures you've been taking, and then we're going to have a conversation about your future. And if I don't, then my men kick down this door and we see how good you really are. 4 against 1. Even a Navy SEAL doesn't like those odds." Marcus calculated. 4 men, 1 exit, limited cover. Vance was right. The odds were bad. But Marcus had faced worse. "Let me guess," he called out. "This is where you offer me money. Tell me I can be part of the organization, walk away rich." "Actually, no. I don't trust you enough for that." Vance's voice hardened. "This is where I tell you that your dog is no longer at the Bradley farm. My men picked him up an hour ago." Marcus's blood went cold. "You're lying." "Am I?" "German Shepherd, tan and black coat, answers to Shadow. Tried to bite one of my officers when they put him in the van." Vance paused. "He's alive, for now. But how long he stays that way depends on your cooperation." Marcus felt the world tilting. Shadow. They had Shadow. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear. Leave the city tonight. Forget everything you've seen. Forget Sofia Martinez. Forget Elena. Forget all of it." Vance's voice carried a terrible smile. "Do that, and I'll release your dog. You have my word." "Your word is worthless." "Maybe, but it's all you have right now." Marcus's mind raced through options. Surrender meant death. His and Shadow's both. Fighting meant possibly dying and definitely not saving his dog. Running meant abandoning everything he'd discovered. But there was a fourth option. I need proof Shadow's alive. Silence. Then the sound of a phone ringing. A moment later, familiar barking echoed through the night. Frantic, terrified, but unmistakably Shadow. The barking cut off abruptly. Satisfied? Vance asked. If you hurt him, empty threats don't suit you, Cole. Now, decision time. Come out peacefully, or we come in violently. Either way, this ends tonight. Marcus looked at the boxes around him. 15 years of evidence. Enough to destroy an empire. But none of it mattered if Shadow died. Except it did matter. The women in those photographs, the witnesses who'd been silenced, Sofia Martinez, waiting to be murdered tomorrow night. They all mattered. And suddenly, Marcus knew what he had to do. He pulled out his phone and sent a rapid text to Carter. Storage Unit 247. Evidence inside. Vance has me surrounded. Has Shadow. Coming out. Don't let this be for nothing. Then he deleted the message, wiped his recent photos to the cloud backup Carter had set up, and formatted the phone. I'm coming out, he called. Don't shoot. He placed his weapon on the ground, raised his hands, and walked toward the door. Vance stood flanked by 4 officers in tactical gear. All of them had weapons trained on Marcus. Smart choice, Vance said. Now, where's the phone? Marcus handed it over. Vance scrolled through it, frowning at the empty gallery, the wiped data. What did you do? Sent everything to the cloud, backed up automatically. Marcus smiled grimly. You can kill me, but the evidence is already out there. The FBI will have it within hours. Vance's face contorted with rage. He struck Marcus across the face, sending him stumbling. You're lying. Maybe, but can you afford to take that chance? Vance grabbed Marcus by the collar. Where did you send it? Who has the backup? Kill me, and you'll never know. For a long moment, Vance's finger hovered near his trigger. Marcus could see the calculation in his eyes. The desperate need to eliminate the threat, warring with the fear of what he didn't know. Finally, Vance released him. Put him in the van. We're taking him to Mercer. What about the storage unit? Burn it. Everything inside. Marcus watched as officers entered the unit with gasoline cans. 15 years of evidence. Sofia's best chance at justice. Going up in flames. But the backup was real. Carter would receive it. The evidence would survive. As they shoved him into a van, Marcus held onto that thought like a lifeline. Shadow was still alive. The evidence was safe. And tomorrow, one way or another, Raymond Vance was going down. The van doors slammed shut, plunging Marcus into darkness. But in that darkness, he could hear Shadow barking somewhere ahead. His partner. His friend. Still fighting. Marcus closed his eyes and made a promise. I'm coming, buddy. Hold on. I'm coming. The van stopped after what felt like an hour of driving. Marcus had counted every turn, every stop, every acceleration. His SEAL training kicked in automatically, mapping the route in his mind, even through the darkness. They'd headed east, then south, toward the industrial district near the port. Mercer's territory. The doors swung open. Rough hands grabbed Marcus and yanked him out. His knees hit concrete, and he tasted blood from where Vance had struck him earlier. Welcome to the end of your story, Cole. Vance stood over him, silhouetted against harsh fluorescent lights. Behind him, Marcus could see a warehouse. Old. Abandoned. The kind of place where people disappeared. And somewhere inside, Shadow was barking. The sound cut through Marcus like a blade. Frantic. Terrified. But alive. Bring him, Vance ordered. They dragged Marcus through a side entrance and down a corridor that smelled like rust and old blood. The barking grew louder with every step until they reached a large open space. Shadow was there. The German shepherd was locked in a metal cage barely large enough to hold him. His fur was matted with sweat, his eyes wild with fear. When he saw Marcus, his barking transformed into desperate whining. "Shadow!" Marcus lunged toward the cage, but the guards held him back. "It's okay, boy."
I'm here. I'm here.
Shadow pressed against the bars, trying to reach his partner. His whole body shook with the effort. "Touching," a new voice said. "Truly touching." Marcus turned. A man emerged from the shadows. Silver hair, expensive suit. Eyes like a shark who had never known fear. Anton Mercer. "Mr. Cole, I've heard so much about you." Mercer approached slowly, hands clasped behind his back. The Navy SEAL who couldn't follow orders. The whistleblower who destroyed his own career. And now, the amateur detective who thinks he can bring down my empire. "I've brought down harder targets," Mercer smiled. "I'm sure you have. But those targets didn't have the resources I have, the connections, the complete lack of moral constraints." He stopped in front of Shadow's cage. Beautiful animal, loyal, intelligent. It would be a shame to have to destroy him. Shadow snarled at Mercer, teeth bared, the cage rattling with his fury. "Don't," Marcus said, his voice cracking despite himself. "Whatever you want from me, leave the dog out of it." "What I want is simple." Mercer turned back to face him. "I want to know who has the backup of the evidence you stole from the storage unit. I want names, locations, everything. And if I tell you, then you and your dog die quickly, painlessly." Mercer shrugged. "If you don't, we'll start with the dog, slowly, while you watch. Then we'll move on to you." Marcus looked at Shadow, at the terror in his partner's eyes, at the trust that remained despite everything. He thought about Carter, waiting for the evidence, about Elena, who had risked everything to help him, about Sophia, who would die tomorrow night if no one stopped Vance. "Go to hell." Mercer sighed. "I was hoping you'd say that." He nodded to Vance. "Start with the dog's paws, one at a time." Vance pulled out a pair of bolt cutters and approached the cage. Shadow backed away, growling, but there was nowhere to go. "Wait!" Marcus's voice echoed off the walls. "Wait! I'll tell you." Vance paused, looking at Mercer. "I'm listening," Mercer said. Marcus's mind raced. He needed time, needed an opening, needed something, anything, to change the equation. "The backup went to Deputy Chief Carter. He has everything on his personal computer at his house." The lie came easily because he needed them to believe it. "But there's a failsafe. If I don't check in by midnight, the files automatically upload to the FBI's anonymous tip server." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "What kind of failsafe?" "Encrypted timer. I set it up before I went to the storage unit. The only way to stop it is with a code that only I know." "Convenient." "It's the truth. You can kill me and have the FBI on your doorstep by morning. Or you can let me stop the upload and deal with this quietly." Mercer studied him for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and checked the time. "It's 11:47. You're saying we have 13 minutes. "That's right." "And why should I believe you?" "Because if I was lying, I'd already be dead." Marcus met his gaze steadily. "I'm not a martyr. I don't want to die. But I'm also not stupid enough to walk into a situation like this without insurance." Mercer exchanged a look with Vance. Something passed between them, an unspoken calculation of risks and rewards. "Give him a phone," Mercer said finally. "Let him make the call." One of the guards handed Marcus a burner phone. His hands were still cuffed, but he managed to dial the number he'd memorized years ago. Carter answered on the second ring. Who is this? It's Cole. I need you to listen very carefully. Cole, where are you? I got your message about the storage unit. Stop. Don't say anything else. They're listening. Marcus chose his words carefully, praying Carter would understand. I need you to access the failsafe on your computer. The file labeled Insurance. You need to delete it before midnight or it uploads automatically. Silence on the line. Then Carter's voice, cautious but playing along. The insurance file. Right. I understand. Good. And Carter? Tell Sarah I'm sorry I couldn't make it to dinner. She was counting on me being there at midnight. More silence. Then, I'll tell her. Be careful, Marcus. The line went dead. Marcus handed the phone back to the guard. It's done. He's deleting the files now. Mercer nodded slowly. We'll verify. If you're lying, I'm not. Then you might actually live through the night. Mercer turned to Vance. Keep them both here until we confirm the files are gone. Then dispose of them. Both? The dog, too. I don't like loose ends. Mercer straightened his jacket. I have a meeting. Call me when it's finished. He walked out without looking back. Marcus sagged against the guards holding him. His gamble had bought time, but that was all. Carter would understand the code, he hoped. Sarah was the name of Carter's late wife. Midnight was a location, not a time. The Midnight Diner on 5th Street, their agreed-upon emergency meeting point. If Carter figured it out, help would come. If he didn't, Marcus and Shadow would both be dead within the hour. Vance dismissed 2 of the guards, leaving only himself and 1 other officer to watch the prisoners. He pulled up a chair and sat across from Marcus, the bolt cutters still in his hand. You know what I can't figure out? Vance said conversationally. Why you care so much about a dog. He's not just a dog. Right. He's your partner, your friend, your family. Vance shook his head. I've never understood that kind of attachment. Animals are tools. You use them until they're broken, then you replace them. Is that how you see people, too? Vance smiled coldly. People are even easier to replace. Shadow whined softly, pawing at the cage bars. Marcus wanted desperately to go to him, to comfort him, but the cuffs and the guard made it impossible. You know what's going to happen tomorrow night, Marcus said. To Sophia Martinez. Does it bother you at all? Killing a 22-year-old girl who just wants to tell the truth? She's a witness. Witnesses talk. When they talk, people like me go to prison. Vance shrugged. It's nothing personal. It's murder. It's survival. Vance leaned forward. You want to know the difference between you and me, Cole? I understand how the world actually works. Good guys don't win. Truth doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is power. And Mercer has it. The sooner you accept that, the easier dying becomes. I'd rather die fighting than live as someone's attack dog. That can be arranged. Marcus's eyes kept drifting to the guard standing by the door. Young. Nervous. His hand trembled slightly on his weapon. Not a hardened criminal. Probably one of the cops Vance had recruited. Someone who'd taken bribes and now found himself in too deep. A potential weak point. How about you? Marcus called to the young officer. You ready to watch your sergeant murder a prisoner and his dog? That what you signed up for? The officer flinched. Shut up. What's your name? Your real name, the one your mother calls you. I said shut up. Because here's the thing. Marcus kept his voice calm, reasonable. Right now, you're an accessory to kidnapping. That's bad, but it's survivable. You cooperate with prosecutors, you might walk away with probation. But murder? He shook his head. Murder is different. Murder stays with you forever. Don't listen to him, Vance snapped. He's trying to manipulate you. Am I? Or am I the only one telling you the truth? Marcus held the young officer's eyes. You think Mercer's going to let you live after this? You're a witness now. When you're no longer useful, you'll end up in a hole, just like me." The officer's face had gone pale. His weapon wavered. "Torres," Vance said sharply. "Eyes on the prisoner, nothing else." But Marcus had seen the doubt, the fear, the first crack in Vance's armor. He just needed to widen it. "Let me ask you something, Torres. You have family? Parents? Siblings? Kids?" "I have a daughter," Torres said before he could stop himself. "She's 6. Beautiful age. My sister has a girl that age. Curious about everything. Still believes her daddy is a hero." Marcus's voice softened. "What's your daughter going to believe when this comes out? And it will come out. These things always do." Torres looked at Vance, then back at Marcus. "How do you know it'll come out?" "Because I'm not the only one who knows. The evidence I gathered is already in other hands. Kill me, and you become the loose end they need to eliminate. Let me go, and I can help you get out of this before it's too late." "Don't be stupid," Vance snarled at Torres. "He's bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus shifted his attention back to Vance. "You burned that storage unit. But did you check to make sure everything was inside before you lit the match? Or did you just assume Elena gave me all of it?" For the first time, doubt flickered in Vance's eyes. "That's right. Elena kept copies, hidden somewhere you'll never find. Right now, she's probably handing them to the FBI, while you sit here playing guard dog for Mercer." Marcus smiled grimly. "You think you're the predator in this situation, Vance? But you're just another pawn. And Mercer sacrifices pawns without a second thought." Vance stood abruptly, his chair scraping against concrete. "You're lying. Elena doesn't have anything. I've controlled her for 20 years. You controlled a woman who was afraid. But fear has a shelf life. Eventually, people get more scared of living with the guilt than dying for the truth." Marcus met his eyes. "Elena reached that point. That's why she came to me. That's why she gave me the key. And that's why you're going to lose everything." Vance's hand shot out, grabbing Marcus by the throat. "Where are the copies? Tell me!" Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, but he managed to smile. That smile enraged Vance more than any words could. He squeezed harder, lifting Marcus off his feet. Then Shadow went berserk. The German shepherd threw himself against the cage with incredible force. The metal groaned. He did it again, and again, each impact harder than the last, driven by desperate fury at seeing his partner hurt. Torres stumbled backward, startled by the violence. And on the fourth impact, the cage lock broke. Shadow exploded out like a missile. 60 pounds of muscle and teeth and 5 years of combat training aimed directly at the man hurting his partner. He hit Vance in the chest, sending the sergeant crashing backward. The grip on Marcus's throat released. Marcus dropped to his knees, gasping for air. Vance screamed as Shadow's jaws clamped onto his arm. The gun flew from his hand, skittering across the floor. Torres stood frozen, weapon raised, unable to get a clear shot without hitting Vance. "Shoot the dog!" Vance shrieked. "Shoot it!" Marcus moved. His hands were still cuffed, but SEAL training had taught him to fight through worse limitations. He charged Torres, driving his shoulder into the young officer's midsection. Torres went down, his weapon discharging harmlessly into the ceiling. Marcus brought his cuffed hands down on the back of Torres's head. The officer went limp. He grabbed Torres's keys and fumbled with his cuffs. 3 seconds. 5. The metal clicked open. Behind him, Shadow was still attacking Vance. The sergeant had managed to get his arm up, protecting his throat, but the dog's teeth were doing terrible damage. "Shadow, release!" The command cut through Shadow's rage. He backed off immediately, blood on his muzzle, body trembling with adrenaline, but obedient as always. Marcus grabbed Torres's weapon and trained it on Vance. The sergeant lay on the ground, his arm a ruin of torn flesh and exposed muscle. "Don't move." Vance laughed through the pain. "You think this changes anything? Mercer has 50 men. You can't stop what's coming." "Maybe not, but I can stop you." Marcus pulled out the phone Torres had been carrying and dialed 911.
911, what's your emergency?
"I need police and ambulance at the Mercer warehouse on Pier 7. Officer down. Multiple suspects involved in kidnapping and corruption. Request FBI backup immediately." He ended the call before the dispatcher could ask questions. Then he knelt beside Vance. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me exactly where Sofia Martinez is being held. And you're going to tell me who your inside contact at the FBI is." "Go to hell."
Marcus looked at Shadow, who was watching Vance with ears pinned back and teeth still bared.
"You know what happens if I give him the attack command again? He won't stop at your arm this time." Vance's face went white. For the first time, Marcus saw genuine fear in his eyes. "She's at the Riverside Motel, room 112. FBI safe house, under the name Wilson." Vance's voice came out in a rush. "The contact is Agent Phillips. He's been on Mercer's payroll for 3 years.
How many guards at the motel?
2, both Phillips's men. They're supposed to hand her over to me tomorrow night at 11. Marcus stood. "Shadow, guard!" The German shepherd positioned himself over Vance, growling softly, promising violence if the sergeant moved an inch. Marcus checked Torres's pulse. Alive. Unconscious. He'd have a headache, but nothing worse. Sirens wailed in the distance. Help was coming, but Marcus couldn't wait.
If Phillips learned that Vance had been captured, he'd kill Sofia immediately to protect himself. "Shadow, come." The dog abandoned his position and fell into step beside Marcus. They moved through the warehouse, checking corners, clearing rooms, until they reached an exit that led to a back alley. Marcus found a delivery truck with keys still in the ignition. He'd apologize for the theft later. Or not. "Get in, boy." Shadow jumped into the passenger seat, tongue lolling, tail wagging despite everything they'd just survived.
In his world, they'd won the fight and were moving to the next mission. Simple. Pure. Unbroken by doubt. Marcus started the truck and pulled out of the alley, heading toward the Riverside Motel. His mind worked through the tactical situation. 2 guards, 1 witness to protect. No backup except a dog. Bad odds. But he'd faced worse. His phone buzzed, a text from Carter. "Received your message. Heading to midnight with backup. FBI. Friends I trust are mobilizing. ETA. 30 minutes. Where are you?" Marcus typed back with one hand while driving with the other. "Riverside Motel, room 112. Sofia Martinez is there with 2 dirty agents. Going in now. Can't wait." Carter's response came immediately. "Don't be a hero, Cole. Wait for backup." Marcus looked at Shadow, then at the road ahead. "No time. They'll kill her if they find out Vance is down. Shadow and I can handle 2 guards." A long pause, then, "God protect you both." Marcus pocketed the phone and pressed the accelerator harder. Sofia Martinez had survived 3 years of trafficking hell. She'd escaped against impossible odds. She'd agreed to testify, knowing it might cost her life. He wasn't going to let her die now. Not when they were this close. "Ready for another fight, buddy?" Shadow barked once. Sharp, certain, ready. The Riverside Motel appeared ahead, a rundown building with flickering neon signs. The kind of place where people hid from the world. Room 112 was at the far end. 1 car parked outside. 2 men visible through the window, sitting with a young woman between them. Sofia. Marcus parked the truck around the corner and checked his weapon. Full magazine, one spare. It would have to be enough. Shadow, quiet approach, on my signal. The German shepherd's body went low, ears flat, every movement suddenly silent. Combat mode engaged. They approached the room from the blind side, using parked cars as cover. 20 feet. 15. 10. Marcus could hear voices now. The guards were arguing about something. I don't care what Philip said. If Vance doesn't show by midnight, we move her ourselves. And take her where? This whole thing is falling apart. I heard cops raided Mercer's warehouse. Probably nothing. Vance has it under control. What if he doesn't? What if... Marcus kicked the door in. The guards reacted fast, reaching for weapons. But Shadow was faster. The German shepherd hit the first guard before his hand touched his holster. The man went down screaming. Marcus took the second guard with a tackle that sent them both crashing into the wall. A brief struggle, an elbow to the throat. The guard's eyes rolled back, and he went limp. Sofia Martinez sat on the bed, frozen with shock. It's okay, Marcus said, breathing hard. I'm here to help. We need to move. Now.
Who are you?
My name is Marcus Cole. Deputy Chief Carter sent me. It was a simplification, but close enough to the truth. There are more of them coming. We have to go. Sophia looked at the unconscious guards, at Shadow still standing over one of them, at the stranger offering her his hand. Then she took it. Let's go. They ran. They made it 3 blocks before the first shots rang out. Marcus shoved Sophia behind a parked car, covering her body with his own as bullets shattered the windows above them. Shadow pressed low against the pavement, growling but disciplined, waiting for commands. Stay down, Marcus hissed. Who's shooting at us? Phillips's backup. They must have had eyes on the motel. Marcus risked a glance around the car's bumper. 2 vehicles, 4 shooters, maybe more coming. His phone buzzed. Carter. Where are you? Marcus typed with one thumb while keeping his weapon ready. 3 blocks east of motel. Taking fire. 4 hostiles minimum. Hold position. Back up 2 minutes out. 2 minutes. An eternity in a firefight. Can you run? Marcus asked Sophia. I survived 3 years with Mercer. I can do anything. Despite everything, Marcus felt a flash of admiration. This girl had steel in her spine. When I say go, you run for that alley. Don't stop. Don't look back. Shadow will protect you. What about you? I'll be right behind you. It was a lie. They both knew it. But Sophia nodded anyway. Marcus took a breath, steadied his aim, fired 3 rounds at the nearest vehicle, shattering its windshield. Go! Sophia sprinted toward the alley. Shadow ran beside her, matching her pace exactly, positioning his body between her and the shooters. Marcus laid down covering fire, drawing attention away from them. Bullets sparked off concrete around him. One grazed his shoulder, a line of fire that he ignored through sheer willpower. He saw Sophia reach the alley, saw Shadow guide her into the shadows. Safe. For now. Marcus retreated, moving from cover to cover, returning fire when he could. His ammunition was running low. 8 rounds. Maybe 10. Not enough. A shooter flanked him on the left. Marcus spun, fired twice, saw the man drop. But the movement exposed his back. Pain exploded through his side. Marcus stumbled, hand going to his ribs. It came away red. The bullet had punched through his lower abdomen, missing anything vital by inches. But it was bleeding badly. He kept moving. The alley was 30 feet away. 20. 10. A figure stepped out of the shadows ahead. Marcus raised his weapon, finger tightening on the trigger. Easy, Cole. It's me. Carter, armed and flanked by 2 men Marcus didn't recognize. Cavalry's here, Carter said grimly. Get down. We'll handle this. Marcus dropped to his knees, no longer able to stand. The world was going gray at the edges. Blood loss. Shock. His body finally registering the damage it had taken. "Sophia," he gasped. "She's in the alley. Shadow's with her." "We've got her. She's safe." Carter knelt beside him, pressing a hand against the wound. "Stay with me, Cole. Ambulance is coming."
"Vance, he's at the warehouse, Pier 7. I left Shadow guarding him, but—"
"We picked him up. He's in custody, along with 3 of his officers." Carter's voice cracked. "You did it, son. You actually did it." Marcus tried to smile, but the effort was too much. His vision was fading. His body felt cold. Then a warm weight pressed against his side. Shadow. The German shepherd had abandoned Sophia to return to his partner. He lay against Marcus, whining softly, nose pressed against his cheek. "Hey, buddy," Marcus whispered. "Good boy. Such a good boy." Shadow licked his face. Carter's voice came from somewhere far away. "Ambulance! Now! He's losing too much blood!" Marcus closed his eyes. The last thing he felt was Shadow's heartbeat, steady and strong, pressed against his own fading pulse. Darkness took him. The beeping woke him first. Steady, rhythmic. The sound of machines keeping him alive. Marcus opened his eyes to white walls, fluorescent lights, and the antiseptic smell of a hospital room. His body felt heavy, wrapped in bandages and tubes, and the lingering fog of painkillers. "You're awake." Carter sat in a chair by the window, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was rumpled. His eyes were red. "How long?" Marcus's voice came out as a croak. 3 days. You lost a lot of blood. Surgeons had to remove a piece of your intestine." Carter managed a weak smile. "But you're going to live, stubborn bastard." "Shadow?" "Outside in the hallway. Hospital policy says no dogs allowed. But he hasn't left that door in 72 hours. Security tried to remove him twice. Both times, he convinced them otherwise." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "Good boy. The best." Carter leaned forward. "There's a lot you need to know. While you were unconscious, everything changed." Marcus tried to sit up, winced at the pain, and settled for propping himself against the pillows. "Tell me." "Vance is in federal custody. He's already started talking, trying to cut a deal. His testimony, combined with the evidence we recovered, is bringing down Mercer's entire network." "The FBI contact? Phillips?" "Arrested yesterday, along with 6 other agents on Mercer's payroll. The Bureau is conducting a full internal investigation." Carter's expression darkened. "It goes deeper than we thought. Judges, politicians, business leaders. 15 years of corruption, and we're just scratching the surface." "What about Mercer himself?" Carter's smile returned, genuine this time. "That's the best part. Elena Vance came forward. She had copies of everything, just like you guessed. Bank records, communications, evidence of murders that we didn't even know about. Mercer was arrested 12 hours ago. No bail, no deals. He's going away forever." Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "And Sophia?" "Safe. She testified before the grand jury 2 days ago. Her testimony was the final nail in Mercer's coffin." Carter reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "She asked me to give you this." Marcus took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in handwritten words. "Mr. Cole, I don't know how to thank you for what you did. You didn't know me. You had no reason to risk your life, but you did anyway. 3 years ago, I lost hope. I thought I would die in that hell, forgotten and alone. But then I escaped and I thought maybe I had a chance. Then they found me again, and I lost hope all over again. You gave it back. Not just hope. You gave me the chance to fight back, to tell my story, to make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to other girls. Your dog saved my life in that motel room, but you saved it first, by being the kind of person who runs toward danger instead of away from it. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Sophia Marcus's hands were shaking by the time he finished reading. She's a strong kid, Carter said quietly. Because of you, she gets to use that strength for something other than survival. A knock at the door interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, but there's a dog in the hallway who's getting increasingly agitated. He seems to know you're awake. Marcus smiled through the pain. Let him in. Sir, hospital policy, please. The nurse hesitated, then sighed and stepped aside. Shadow burst through the door like a furry missile. He jumped onto the bed with more gentleness than Marcus would have thought possible, carefully avoiding the bandages and tubes. Then he collapsed against Marcus's side, tail wagging furiously, whining with pure joy. Marcus wrapped his arms around the dog, burying his face in Shadow's fur. I missed you too, buddy. I missed you too. Shadow licked his tears away. Carter stood, giving them space. I'll come back later. There's more to discuss, but it can wait. Carter, the deputy chief, paused at the door. Thank you for believing me, for helping me. Carter nodded slowly. Thanks, Shadow. He's the one who started all this. He smiled. That dog heard something wrong in Vance's bag before any of us did. The rest of it, you and him figured out together. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Marcus lay in the hospital bed, his dog pressed against him, watching the sun rise through the window. They'd won. Against impossible odds, against powerful enemies, against a system designed to protect the guilty and punish the innocent. They'd won. But the cost had been high. Marcus thought about Elena Vance, who had finally found the courage to speak after 20 years of silence. About Torres, the young officer who'd made bad choices and would now face the consequences. About all the victims whose names filled the files. People who hadn't lived to see justice served. He thought about his own scars, old and new. The ones on his body and the ones on his soul. And he thought about what came next. What do you think, Shadow? He murmured. Ready for a quieter life? Shadow lifted his head, ears perked forward, eyes bright and alert. Probably not. Neither was Marcus, if he was honest with himself. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from an unknown number. Mr. Cole, my name is Director Harrison, FBI Counter-Corruption Task Force. I've reviewed your file and your actions over the past week. When you've recovered, I'd like to discuss a job opportunity. The Bureau could use someone with your skills and your unique partner. Call me. Marcus read the message twice. Then he looked at Shadow. What do you think? Feel like going legitimate? Shadow's tail wagged once. Approval. Marcus typed back. I'm listening. The phone rang almost immediately. Mr. Cole, thank you for responding. Director Harrison, I have to be honest. I'm not sure I'm FBI material. My track record with authority isn't great. A chuckle on the other end. I've read your Navy file, the unredacted version. What you did in Kandahar wasn't insubordination. It was integrity. The kind we desperately need. Marcus was silent for a moment. What exactly are you proposing? A new unit. Canine-assisted anti-corruption investigations. You and Shadow would work with a team to identify dirty cops, compromised judges, corrupt officials.
The people who hide behind badges and use the system against the innocent. Sounds like a good way to make enemies. The best way, but also the only way to clean house. Harrison's voice grew serious. What you exposed this week is just the tip of the iceberg. Mercer had connections we're still unraveling. We need people who can smell corruption before it spreads. People like you. Dogs like Shadow. Marcus looked at his partner, who was watching him with those intelligent eyes that saw more than any human ever could. I have conditions. Name them. Shadow stays with me. Always. No bureaucratic nonsense about where he can and can't go. Done. I report directly to you. No middle management, no handlers who might be compromised. Agreed. And I reserve the right to walk away if I ever believe the Bureau is becoming what it's supposed to fight. A pause. Then Harrison said, Fair enough. Anything else? Marcus thought about everything he'd been through, everything he'd lost and found, everything that Shadow meant to him. One more thing. There's a young woman named Sophia Martinez. She's going to need support as she rebuilds her life. Scholarships, counseling, protection if necessary. We'll take care of her. You have my word. Then you have a deal. Excellent. Rest up, Mr. Cole. When you're ready, we'll make it official. Harrison paused. And thank your dog for me. He started something important this week. Something that's going to change a lot of lives. The call ended. Marcus set down the phone and scratched Shadow behind the ears. Hear that, buddy? We're going legit. Going to be actual government employees. Shadow sneezed, which Marcus chose to interpret as skepticism. Yeah, I know. Weird for us too. He leaned back against the pillows. But think about it. All those corrupt cops out there, all those dirty politicians, all those people hurting innocents and hiding behind power. Shadow's ears perked forward. That's right. More bad guys to catch. More packages to bark at. More lies to expose. The German shepherd's tail began to wag. And this time, we'll have backup, resources, authority. Marcus smiled. We'll be the ones they're afraid of. Shadow barked once, sharp and decisive. Ready. Always ready. A nurse appeared at the door, frowning at the dog on the bed. Sir, I really must insist. Shadow turned his head and gave her the look. The one that had faced down terrorists and criminals and corrupt cops. The one that said very clearly that he wasn't going anywhere. The nurse's protest died in her throat. I'll just come back later. She fled. Marcus laughed. The first real laugh he'd had in weeks. It hurt his stitches, but he didn't care. Good boy, he said. Such a good boy. Shadow settled back against him, content and protective, his heartbeat strong and steady. Outside the window, the sun continued to rise. A new day, a new beginning, a new mission. And somewhere in the city, Elena Vance was finally free. Sophia Martinez was finally safe. Deputy Chief Carter was finally vindicated. Justice had won. Not because the system worked. The system had failed, over and over, for 15 years. Justice had won because one dog barked at a bag when something smelled wrong. Because one man trusted that dog when no one else would. Marcus closed his eyes, exhausted but peaceful. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, new battles to fight. But tonight he rested, with Shadow at his side, where his partner belonged. 6 weeks after the hospital, Marcus stood before a Senate subcommittee. The hearing room was packed. Cameras lined every wall. Reporters jostled for position in the gallery. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for.
The testimony that would expose the full scope of corruption that had infected law enforcement for 15 years. Shadow sat beside Marcus, calm and dignified, wearing an official FBI K-9 vest that still looked strange to both of them. "Mr. Cole," Senator Williams began, "please state your name and position for the record." "Marcus Cole, Special Agent, FBI Counter-Corruption Task Force, K-9 Handler." "And the dog beside you?" "Shadow, my partner, formerly military K-9, now FBI service animal." A murmur ran through the gallery. Williams nodded. "Mr. Cole, you're here today to testify about events that began 6 weeks ago at the Fort Marshall K-9 training facility. Can you tell us what happened?" Marcus took a breath. This was it. The moment where everything he'd discovered would become part of the permanent record. "Yes, Senator. It started with a bark." He told them everything. About Shadow's reaction to Vance's bag. About the security footage showing Mercer passing the package. About Elena Vance's courage in coming forward. About the storage unit and its 15 years of documented evil. He told them about the warehouse where Mercer's men had held him. About Shadow breaking free from his cage to save his life. About the firefight at the motel and the desperate race to protect Sofia Martinez. He told them about the corrupt FBI agents, the compromised judges, the politicians who had looked the other way while women were trafficked and witnesses were murdered. When he finished, the room was silent. Senator Williams leaned forward. "Mr. Cole, throughout your testimony, you've credited your dog with identifying Sergeant Vance as a threat before anyone else suspected him. Can you explain how that's possible?" Marcus looked at Shadow, who met his eyes with that steady, intelligent gaze. "Dogs don't understand corruption, Senator. They don't know about bribes or cover-ups or political connections. But they understand deception. They can smell fear. They can sense when something is wrong, even when everything looks right on the surface." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Shadow didn't know Vance was corrupt, but he knew Vance was hiding something. He knew that bag contained something that didn't belong, and he tried to warn everyone in that room. Marcus's voice hardened. "We didn't listen. We told him to be quiet. We trusted the badge instead of the bark." "And if you had listened? Then 15 years of evidence wouldn't have been burned. Witnesses who are now dead might still be alive. Sofia Martinez wouldn't have spent weeks in fear for her life." Marcus shook his head. "We failed. The system failed. Shadow didn't." Senator Williams sat back, processing this. Then she asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Mr. Cole, based on your experience, how do we prevent this from happening again?" Marcus had thought about this question every day since the hospital. Every night when he couldn't sleep. Every morning when he looked at Shadow and wondered how many other corrupt officials were out there, hiding behind badges and titles. "We trust the dogs," he said simply. "Not blindly, not without evidence, but we listen when they tell us something is wrong. We create systems that reward honesty instead of punishing it. We protect whistleblowers instead of destroying them." He looked directly at the camera, knowing millions of people were watching. "And we remember that evil doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it has a 20-year service record. Sometimes it shakes your hand and smiles while planning your murder." His voice dropped. "The only way to fight that kind of evil is to trust the ones who can see through the disguise. Dogs like Shadow. People like Elena Vance and Deputy Chief Carter. Anyone brave enough to speak the truth when the truth is dangerous." The hearing lasted 4 more hours. Other witnesses testified. Documents were entered into evidence. The full scope of Mercer's network was laid bare for the world to see. But Marcus's testimony was what everyone remembered. That night, every news channel led with the same clip. A former Navy SEAL, sitting beside his German Shepherd, explaining how a single bark had brought down an empire of corruption. The response was overwhelming.
Letters poured in from across the country. Veterans who'd been silenced by the system. Abuse victims who'd never been believed. Ordinary people who had given up on justice and were now, tentatively, beginning to hope again. One letter stood out from the rest. It arrived 3 days after the hearing, handwritten on expensive stationery. Marcus recognized the handwriting before he read the signature. Dear Marcus, I watched your testimony, all of it. I cried through most of it, but not from sadness, from relief. For 20 years I lived with a monster. I told myself I had no choice. I told myself no one would believe me. I told myself that staying silent was the only way to survive. You showed me I was wrong. Not just by exposing Raymond, by trusting your dog when everyone else told you to be quiet. By risking everything for people you'd never met. By proving that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to act despite the fear. I'm starting over now. New name, new city, new life. The FBI has been incredibly supportive. They've helped me understand that I was a victim too, even though I sometimes feel like an accomplice. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive myself for the years I stayed silent, but I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying. Thank you for giving me the chance to try. With gratitude and hope. Elena Marcus read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his desk drawer next to Sophia's note. 2 women, 2 acts of courage, 2 lives reclaimed from the wreckage of Mercer's empire. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough to undo 15 years of evil. But it was a start. 3 months after the hearing, Marcus and Shadow reported for their first official assignment. Director Harrison met them at FBI headquarters, looking both pleased and slightly nervous. Glad you're here, Cole. We've got a situation. Already? Corruption doesn't take breaks. Harrison handed him a file. Federal judge in Chicago, suspected of taking bribes to reduce sentences for organized crime figures. We've been investigating for months, but we can't get close enough to gather evidence. Marcus opened the file. Judge Patricia Okonkwo, 62 years old, appointed to the bench 15 years ago. Spotless record on paper. What do you need from us? The judge is hosting a charity gala next week. Law enforcement officials from across the Midwest will be attending. We've arranged for you and Shadow to be part of the security detail. Marcus understood immediately. You want Shadow to do what he did with Vance. React to something no one else can see. Exactly. If Shadow alerts on anyone at that gala, we'll know where to focus our investigation. Marcus looked at Shadow, who was sniffing Harrison's desk with professional curiosity. One condition. Name it. If Shadow alerts, we follow up, no matter who it is, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how many connections they have. Harrison nodded slowly. That's the whole point of this unit, Cole. No one is above the law. Not anymore. Marcus closed the file. Then we're in. The gala was everything Marcus hated about high society. Expensive clothes, fake smiles, conversations that said nothing while implying everything. He moved through the crowd in his best suit, Shadow walking calmly beside him, both of them cataloging faces and behaviors. Judge Okonkwo was there, working the room with practiced charm. She paused to pet Shadow, cooing about what a beautiful dog he was. Shadow tolerated the attention without reacting. Nothing wrong here, just another politician. But 2 hours into the event, something changed. A man entered through a side door, tall, well-dressed, moving with the confidence of someone who expected the world to make way for him. Shadow's ears went forward. Marcus felt the shift immediately, the same tension he'd felt at Fort Marshall 6 months ago, when his dog had first sensed that something was wrong with Raymond Vance. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmured. "Who is it?" Shadow's focus locked on to the new arrival. Not aggressive, not barking,
just watching with an intensity that spoke volumes. Marcus checked the guest list on his phone. The man's name was Robert Chen, Deputy Director of the DEA, one of the highest-ranking law enforcement officials in the country. Marcus's heart sank. This was exactly what he'd feared. Not a judge, not a local politician, but someone with real power. Someone who could make problems disappear with a phone call. He texted Harrison. Shadow alerting on Robert Chen, DEA Deputy Director. The response came immediately. Are you sure? Marcus looked at Shadow, still focused, still certain. Shadow, sure. That's good enough for me. A long pause. Then, understood. We'll open an investigation. Quietly. Marcus pocketed his phone and continued his patrol, keeping one eye on Chen for the rest of the night. The DEA Deputy Director never noticed the dog watching him, never realized that his empire of corruption had just begun to crumble. One bark at a time. 6 months later, Robert Chen was arrested on charges of drug trafficking, conspiracy, and murder. The investigation had uncovered a network even larger than Mercer's. Chen had been using his position to protect drug shipments, eliminate witnesses, and funnel millions in cartel money through legitimate businesses. 47 people were arrested in the sweep, including Judge Okonkwo, who had been ruling in Chen's favor for years. Marcus watched the news coverage from his apartment, Shadow dozing at his feet. We did it again, buddy. Shadow's tail wagged without him fully waking up. The phone rang. Harrison. Cole, we've got another situation. Senator in Virginia. Something about campaign finance violations and possible connections to human trafficking. Marcus sighed. Does it ever end? No, but that's why we have you. Harrison's voice softened. And that's why we have Shadow. Get some rest. Briefing tomorrow at 800. Marcus hung up and looked at his dog. Another bad guy, another mission. You up for it? Shadow opened one eye, considered the question, and went back to sleep. Marcus smiled. Yeah, me too. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The work would never be finished. There would always be another corrupt official, another hidden network, another bag that needed to be sniffed. But that was okay, because Marcus had learned something important over the past year, something that changed how he saw the world and his place in it. Justice wasn't a destination. It was a practice, a daily choice to stand up when sitting down would be easier, to speak when silence would be safer, to bark when barking might get you killed. He thought about everyone who had helped him along the way. Carter, who had spent 8 years building a case that no one would believe. Elena, who had finally found the courage to betray a monster. Sophia, who had survived hell and emerged strong enough to help others. Torres, the young officer who had hesitated at the crucial moment and given Marcus the opening he needed. Even Vance, in his own twisted way, had taught Marcus something valuable. Evil thrived in silence, in politeness, in the assumption that someone else would handle it. The moment people started speaking up, started barking at the things that smelled wrong, evil lost its power. Shadow had understood that instinctively, had always understood it. Now Marcus understood it too. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Cole, my name is Maria Santos, Sophia's mother. I wanted to thank you for saving my daughter. Because of you, she is alive. Because of you, she smiles again. Because of you, I have hope that the world is not as dark as I feared. God bless you and your beautiful dog. You are angels on this earth. Marcus read the message 3 times. Then he reached down and scratched Shadow behind the ears. Hey, buddy, wake up. Someone called us angels. Shadow yawned and stretched, completely unimpressed by celestial comparisons. Yeah, I know. We're not angels. We're just a guy and his dog, trying to do the right thing. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, a corrupt senator was sleeping peacefully, unaware that his time was running out. Somewhere else, a trafficking victim was praying for rescue that might never come. Somewhere else still, a good cop was being silenced by a bad system. The world was full of darkness, but it was also full of people like Carter and Elena and Sophia. People who refused to accept that darkness was inevitable. People who lit candles instead of cursing the night. And it was full of dogs like Shadow. Dogs who barked at evil when no one else could see it. Dogs who loved unconditionally and protected fiercely. Dogs who reminded their humans that courage wasn't complicated. It was just choosing to act when action mattered. Marcus turned away from the window and found Shadow watching him, tail wagging slowly, ready for whatever came next. Okay, boy, one more mission, then we rest. Shadow stood, shook himself, and padded to the door. Ready, always ready. And together they walked out into the night. Not as angels, not as heroes, just a man and his dog, doing what needed to be done, one bark at a time. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes that courage still exists. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty and justice. And remember this, the next time a dog barks at something that seems harmless, listen. They might be trying to tell you something important. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't come from investigations or evidence or testimony. Sometimes it comes from a bark. A single bark that changes everything. Trust the dog. Always trust the dog.